Evening, everybody. So this weekend, what I've been doing is I have been recreating Mattias Krantz's guitar string piano. Okay, so what do you want about, Mark? So on this dude Mattias Krantz, I'm probably butchering that name. Sorry, Mattias. On his channel, this dude, what he did is he took off all the piano strings on his upright piano and replaced them with guitar strings. It's pretty insane. He had to knot some of the strings together for it to work. It's pretty insane. So he's done a couple of videos with that. He's done a video like showing him, taking off the old strings, putting on new guitar strings, and then he did a follow-up video where he got a piano tuner to come in and take a look at the piano. They're super awesome videos, and I'll put links in my description. But I mean, you've probably seen it, 'cause, it's got millions of hits. But very kindly, what Mattias has done is he's put sort of a zip file on his website that you can go and download, and he's gone over the run down his keyboard, this guitar string piano, and just sampled, recorded every note. Lovely. So what I've been doing this weekend is basically making a virtual instrument recreation of his guitar string piano. I can play on my MIDI controller Z1 as it is at the moment. I've got to say, it sounds pretty amazing. Really quirky, really idiosyncratic. That's a good word, isn't it? Anyway, here's the process. So what I haven't done is I've not made a VST that you can then go and download. But even if I did, I'd feel uneasy about sharing it, because obviously it's Mattias's work. I could potentially share the Reaper file that I've done all the mapping in, but that's probably not my call to make. I don't mind sharing this with Mattias, obviously, and probably by now people are already making a Contact instrument or an NNXT patch for Reason. So I don't know. I would expect other people to be sort of working on a more sort of self-contained version of this instrument. If you want to hear any kind of particular piano pieces, played on that weird, crazy kind of piano, let me know downstairs. Okay, so I got my Reaper project open, and what Mattias supplied was just the notes. Was a single kind of long audio file of all the notes from high to low pitch. So I've chopped these up, and Reaper has a little tool that allows me to do this really quickly. Maybe I'll do that in a separate video, show you how to do that. So there we go. We start at A7 and it just rolls all the way down sort of the piano keyboard, if you like. And according to what I can determine, it finishes at D1. So I'm using the rear pitch plugin to help me pitch them, and this works really well kind of in the sort of roundabout kind of middle C, so here's F3, right? So that's just a little tool to help me kind of sort of pitch them. So you can see I've named each chunk, according to the note, which allows me to then render them really quickly and efficiently in Reaper, because I can tell Reaper just give me all of these sort of chunks of audio and take the name of that as the file name, which is super cool. Another thing just to point out here, there's a leap here from what I can turn to, from F5. Okay, that sounds cool. And then it kind of leaps an octave down to E4. Okay. Now, I don't know whether that's just because that's how the piano sounds when it's sort of strung up with the guitar strings. That's just how it came out. But what that means is when I create a sample instrument, I'm going to have to stretch E4 up a bit, and or stretch F5 down a bit. So there'll be a bit of experimentation to see how that, what sounds better. But essentially, there is a little gap there. So there we go. So we've got our chopped up audio. We've got all these as separate audio files. So the next thing I did is basically load each note into Resamplomatic. Then I've just got a compressor bus at a compressor, just at the end to rein in any loud notes, loud transients. So those of you familiar with Contact or NNXT in Reason or ESX24 or whatever in Logic, you're probably thinking this is a pretty bonkers way of working, essentially loading each note in its own plugin. But and probably me 2 years ago would see this way of working as to be like, this is bonkers, but actually works real good. The advantage of this is you have massive level of control over each note. Okay, now it's a complete hassle to program it all in, because I just you have to sort of program each note individually and map it to the correct note. So yeah, it's a lot of work, but once it's done, it's done. And as I say, I can control attack, release, the envelope, volume, min-max volume, min-max velocity, any kind of all of this stuff per note. So that's kind of cool. So you can really refine it. So then it just keeps on going. That's just the compressor at the end. Yeah. Okay. So this is where I am now. I've got all my notes in Resamplomatic, and then essentially I've got a MIDI in, which I've set to route that to the various, because I've split the various Resamplomatic instances over. What is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over 6 separate tracks, just to prevent me from having like a single channel with 64 individual plugins. So that's where I am now. Let's just and some of these notes sound really sweet, and even just one of these notes, you could make a sample instrument out of just one of them, and that would sound interesting, right? So I've taken this D6, right, in all his crazy glory, and playing that 3 octaves lower, to have some sort of crazy effects. And then I have to say, as you go down onto the keyboard, some of these low notes just sound insane. I mean, you've got instant horror soundtracks right there. I mean, it's wonderful. It's not, you would say it's not a lovely piano, but it has its own absolute beauty. Love it. So there's a ton of stuff you could do with these samples to make interesting sounding instruments. So this is the very, very first test. There's still a lot of work to do, but initial sound test. Great, just great. So some of the notes are not mapped. I'm not sure why. So, as I say, still some work to do. I don't know what's going on there. On my low notes, I've not mapped those. Okay. So bonkers. So we need to think about, do we want the sample just to run its entirety, or do we want to obey the note off, i.e. I release my finger and that stops the sample playing. I've got to think about also how we want it to respond to the sustain pedal, and it's a distortion pedal, the sustain pedal, as you would like a normal piano. But first, and these are the sounds you're hearing: no reverb, no external processing, just straight into the resamplomatic. So yeah. Anyway, still some work to be done, but first impressions, brilliant. Okay, I think we're getting there. As you can see on the keyboard, I've had to crack out the painter's tape to help me just with the note mappings. So I did a lot of it on a laptop just upstairs last night. Without keyboard in front of me. So some of the mappings were a bit all over the place. So now we've mapped from on this keyboard from the C2 to C7. Although actually there are samples that go slightly below C2 and slightly above C7, because obviously the piano, the normal piano, is an 88 keyboard key instrument, 88 keys. So we've got the full all the mapping done across this entire keyboard. Just sounds magnificent. It kind of sounds like a hammered dulcimer to me. Now this is the region where I had to stretch. So I've used two samples, and I've stretched. I've stretched E4 up to B. I think I've stretched F5 down, and actually sounds fine. You can hear where the sample changes, right? So you could potentially find other samples that you could then stretch down to fill in this sort of gap area. But obviously you're making a really idiosyncratic instrument, so I'm fine for that kind of weird transition. So all the sort of sustain and the release on all these notes is just set. It isn't set at all. It's just set maximum. So these notes will just ring out and ring out and ring out. It's crazy sounding. Just absolutely bonkers. Yeah, so we can maybe think about reining in some of those long sustaining notes and just really alter the envelope. And obviously the approach of having each note loaded into its own little effect allows me to do that. So there's potentially still more work to do. But I'm hungry, so I'm going to go and have a cup of tea and some toast. Okay, let's prevent this video being a bit too long. Let's wrap it up here. I like where we've got to. We've got a full mapping across the keyboard of the piano, guitar, string things. Let's just wrap it up with a quick jam. We got a little bit of Z1, and we've got a little bit of the Mattias piano with some supermassive. That sounds all right, doesn't it? That sounds all right.